Hello, this is me, Mr. Eric Buffington. I am going to be chatting with you a little bit, and the reason why you're listening to me is because I wrote a book called The Troven. This is a young adult fantasy novel. It's the first book in a series of three, a trilogy. Let's go ahead and get into this book a little bit. In the third era, a leader shall arise. To save, he must destroy. The one without a mark, without a gift, without strength. He shall gain marks at a great cost, forged in the fire of the mountain when he faces death. He shall rise or fall when the stones of power are united again, and be the force of change. From the Age of Prophecy. Chapter 1. Dune focused on keeping his breathing quiet and steady as he closed in on the camp of stone seekers. They sat around a small fire, speaking in murmured voices he could not make out at this distance. He needed to get closer, but with stone seekers he could never be too cautious. Any sudden movements or even a change in the rate of his heartbeat could set off a magical trap and alert them of his location. The robe that hung from his shoulders to the ground blended into the surrounding night forest, keeping him hidden from even the keenest of eyes. But that was not enough to get past the magical traps. There was a large opening in the forest between himself and the seeker's camp. It was clear of trees and the dense brush that surrounded them on all sides. It was the only way to approach their camp, so he knew it would not be left unprotected. He inched his body into a crouching position, picked up an acorn and brought it to his mouth. He quietly whispered an enchantment to his hand, as if telling the small nut a secret. When he performed the magic, 5 red marks on his left wrist flared into a deep maroon color. The acorn shell silently cracked as a green root began pressing its way out, searching for some fertile soil. Dune opened his hand into a cup and watched the root grow until it was an inch long. The live root was what he needed. He opened his hand, fully spreading his fingers apart, and with hardened air magically threw the acorn up and away to land in the clearing that separated him from the seeker's camp. When the acorn hit the ground, a ball of fire engulfed it. The acorn was burned to ash instantly. The stone seekers jumped into action, grabbing their weapons and rushed into the opening. Dune watched as they cautiously examined the open space and found only ash. "What is it?" Edgar asked. This particularly vile stone seeker led the small group, and he had a special liking for magical items and traps. "There's not much left," answered the younger man. He was new to the crew, but seemed to be the most intelligent. "It had to be alive, or it wouldn't have set off all the traps." Edgar kicked the ground and grunted in disapproval. "Those traps were expensive. You're telling me it was just some squirrel that set it off?" "Probably more like a mouse or a small bird," the young man corrected. "There's literally nothing left, so it couldn't have been very big." "Ah!" Edgar screamed as he turned around and punched a tree. Dune was pleased at how frustrated Edgar was getting at the loss of some of his traps, but he was also delighted at the prospect that perhaps they wouldn't use so many traps next time they made camp. Getting established as a hunter in the small northern village of Eaton had taken several months, and still he had failed to get close to this group of stone seekers. They were polite with other villagers, but seemed wary of Dune as the newcomer. The only time he was able to get information from them was when he tracked them like this while they were camping out, doing some hunting or visiting nearby hamlets. Dune was beginning to think that there wasn't much he could learn from this group, and he would soon set his own traps to capture them and turn them in. The stone seekers moved back to their campsite, with Edgar still grumbling about the loss of his magic traps. Dune circled around the edge of the clearing, ducking in and out of the darkest shadows. He cast a small spell of sound dampening on his feet before he got within earshot of the campfire. "What about the man from Norwell?" the young man asked. "We have to look into the blacksmith, and besides, it's on the way." Edgar audibly scoffed. "It's just another dead end, like the cooper from Pike Point or the carpenter from Gull Pond. There's nothing unique about a blacksmith staying up all night to work the forge, especially this close to the tournaments." "What if it's not just a tournament?" he protested. It was your lead. You go look into it. I'm heading north." Everyone around the fire remained silent for several minutes. Dune could hear Edgar's loud smacking lips as he chomped on his evening meal. He didn't like how they were talking about a blacksmith in the capital city of Norwell, but at least they seemed to have decided they would leave him alone. There was a shuffling of people as they pulled blankets over themselves and settled in for the night. Dune was about to leave when he heard the woman speak again. "You know what I wish?" she mused. "I wish I could see the look on that magician's face when he gets back home." Edgar laughed out loud. "That would be a sight, wouldn't it? To watch that fool when he realizes he's not as clever as he thinks." Dune stood frozen in place. How did they find me? What did they do to my house? "Speaking of traps," the young man added, "do we have anything else to keep us safe tonight?" "I've got something," Edgar answered. "Everyone come here." Dune watched as they all gathered around their leader. "It will trap anything that breathes in our camp. Anything that's not touching it when we activate it." The three seekers touched the small artifact, and Dune quickly sucked in a deep breath. Alright, we need to pause right here. We are going to skip forward just a little bit. If you want to know how he got out of that trap, you'll need to check out the book. But spoiler warning, he did get out. However, after he got out, this happened. He quietly stood up, looked out into the night, and teleported away as far as he could into the woods, landing a safe distance from the clearing and the camp. When he was sure he was safely out of the range of the trap, he began breathing like normal. He looked out to the north, the directions the seekers were headed. He didn't know why they were going there or how long they would be gone, but after several months of waiting, he felt like this trip might bring him to their leader. But first, he needed to get one thing from his booby-trapped house. The one thing he couldn't have while standing next to a group of seekers. The magic stone. Thank you so much for reading with me today. I hope that you enjoyed that excerpt from Stones of Power Book 1, The Troven. Have a wonderful day.